You didn't join a cult. That's the first thing you need to understand. The thing that makes this story difficult to tell and difficult to hear and difficult to learn from, you didn't join a cult. You joined a community. You joined a group of people who seemed, in the specific moment when you encountered them, to be exactly what you needed. Warm, certain, purposeful in a way that the rest of your life wasn't. You joined something that offered you belonging at a moment when belonging was what you were most hungry for. The word cult came later, from outside, from people you stopped listening to before you understood why you'd stopped, from family members and old friends who raised concerns that you processed at the time as evidence of their limitations rather than your own. From a therapist you saw briefly in year 2 before the group explained why therapists were part of the system designed to keep you from your full potential. You didn't join a cult. You joined the Radiant Path. And the Radiant Path, by the time you understood what it was, had been building its walls around you for so long that you'd mistaken the walls for home. Let's go back to the beginning, because the beginning looked nothing like the end. That's the whole mechanism. That's the only thing you need to understand about how this works. It's October. You're 26 years old. The year has been hard in the specific way that years are hard. When nothing dramatic has happened, but the accumulation of ordinary disappointments has produced something that feels, by October, like a persistent, low-grade fog. You graduated with a degree that didn't lead where you expected. The relationship that was supposed to be the relationship ended in March. Your roommate moved out in July, and you haven't found someone to replace her. And the apartment feels like evidence of something you don't want to name. You're not in crisis. That's important. The popular narrative about cult recruitment focuses on people in acute crisis. The recently bereaved, the newly divorced, the rock bottom. Sometimes that's true. More often it's this. Ordinary loneliness and ordinary uncertainty and an ordinary Tuesday when someone you've just met seems genuinely interested in who you are and what you're looking for. The someone is a woman named Jade. You meet her at a community garden where you've been volunteering on Saturday mornings for 6 weeks. She's warm in a way that doesn't feel performed. She asks real questions and listens to the answers with an attention that you find, in contrast to most of your current social interactions, almost startling. She mentions a dinner. Nothing about the Radiant Path. Nothing about beliefs or practices or commitment. Just a dinner that some friends of hers organize every Thursday at a community space nearby. Good food, interesting people, the kind of conversation that goes somewhere. She says she thinks you'd enjoy it. You go because Jade seems genuine. And you've been eating dinner alone since July. The dinner is in a building that used to be something else. You can tell by the bones of the space, the ceiling height, and the windows that it was once a warehouse or a factory. It's been made welcoming with warm lighting and long communal tables and the smell of food being cooked. 50 people, maybe 60. The demographic is wide. Ages, backgrounds, a surface diversity that reads as evidence of the group's breadth. People talk to you. This is the thing you notice immediately and that you'll think about later with a different understanding than you have tonight. People come to you. They introduce themselves with genuine warmth. They ask about your life, your work, your interests. They listen. They make eye contact. They laugh at things you say. They make you feel, and this is the specific thing, the thing that makes everything that follows possible. Like, You're interesting. Like you're worth knowing. You haven't felt that in a while. By the end of the evening, you've talked to a dozen people, eaten the best communal meal you've had in years, and heard a brief talk by a man named Teacher Daniel. Introduced only as that Teacher Daniel, which you notice and file away without examining, about the concept of purposeful community. The talk lasts 12 minutes. It's thoughtful without being pushy. It doesn't ask you to believe anything. It just describes a way of seeing the world that makes a certain kind of sense. On the walk home, Jade asks what you thought. I liked it, you say. Come again next week, she says. It gets better. You go again next week. It does get better. The next 3 months are the best 3 months you've had in years. The Thursday dinners become the anchor of your week. 30 people by name. You've been invited to smaller gatherings. A Sunday afternoon at someone's apartment, a hike with a group of 10, a volunteer project downtown that 6 Radiant Path members organized. Your social life, which had contracted to almost nothing by October, has expanded into something that feels genuinely rich. The teaching is part of it now. Not the only part, the community is the dominant thing, but present. After the Thursday dinners, Teacher Daniel speaks for 20 to 30 minutes. The topics evolve. Purpose, consciousness, the specific ways that ordinary life keeps people from their authentic potential. The system, a word that starts appearing with increasing frequency, that profits from keeping people small and disconnected. You find the teaching interesting without fully committing to it. This feels like a healthy relationship to it. You're not a true believer. You're someone who finds some of the ideas useful and doesn't need to accept all of it to enjoy the community. This is what you believe about your relationship to the teaching. You don't see yet what's happening underneath it. What's happening underneath it is this. The warmth you're experiencing is real. The people are genuinely warm towards you. But the warmth has a structure. It intensifies when you engage more deeply with the group, when you attend more events, when you participate in the teaching discussions, when you bring a friend. It doesn't cool exactly when you don't, but there's a subtle difference, a slight decrease in the temperature of your interactions on the weeks when you've been less present. You're not being consciously manipulated. The people doing this, Jade, the friends you've made, the wider community, mostly don't know they're doing it. The warmth and its structure have been internalized. They're expressing it the way they express everything in the group, which is in ways that have been shaped by years of belonging to something that rewards certain behaviors. You're learning the rewards without knowing there's a system. By month 3, you're attending Tuesday study sessions. In addition to Thursday dinners, the study sessions are smaller, more intimate, 10 to 15 people going deeper into Teacher Daniel's teachings. You feel at these sessions like you've been trusted with something, like you're part of an inner circle. You are, in fact, being moved toward an inner circle. The difference between those two things is not yet visible to you. Teacher Daniel's ideas are more coherent than most people assume when they hear the word cult. This is important. The popular image of cult doctrine is transparently absurd. Beliefs that any reasonable person would reject on contact. Most cult doctrine is not like this. Most cult doctrine starts with ideas that are legitimate, draws on frameworks that are real. Psychology, philosophy, spirituality, systems thinking, and builds something that is internally consistent and that addresses real human needs and questions. Teacher Daniel's framework is called radiant consciousness. It draws on cognitive behavioral therapy, Buddhist mindfulness practice, systems theory, and a set of original ideas about what he calls the signal, the authentic self underneath all of the programming and conditioning that family and culture and society have applied since birth. The signal is real in the sense that the underlying idea is real. The concept of an authentic self beneath social conditioning is a legitimate psychological concept. What teacher Daniel adds is specificity and urgency. The signal is not just worth developing, it's the only thing that matters. Everything else, conventional career, conventional relationships, conventional beliefs, is noise. Noise is not just unhelpful, it's actively harmful. It's the mechanism by which the system keeps people from their potential. You find this framework useful in specific ways. The idea that you've been shaped by conditioning you didn't choose, this is just true. The idea that examining that conditioning is valuable, also true. The idea that community supports growth, true. The problem is in what the framework does to your evaluative capacity without you noticing. Once you accept the signal noise framework, everything outside the group becomes potentially noise. Your family's concerns about how much time you're spending at Radiant Path events, noise. Your old friends' jokes about your new crowd, noise. Your own doubts about specific teachings, noise from your conditioned mind, not signal from your authentic self. The framework has built a wall around itself. Any criticism of the framework is categorized by the framework as noise, which means the framework is unfalsifiable, which means you've accepted a belief system that cannot be challenged from inside itself. You don't see this because you're inside it. And from inside, it feels like clarity. Month 8. You're invited to join what the Radiant Path calls the inner circle. Not by teacher Daniel directly, by Jade, who came to you after a Tuesday session with the specific warmth of someone offering something precious. The inner circle is a smaller group, 40 people from the broader community of several hundred. They attend additional teachings. They have access to teacher Daniel in smaller settings. They participate in what the group calls deepening, intensive weekend retreats that are described as transformational and that are spoken about by those who've attended with a reverence that makes them sound like the thing the whole teaching has been building toward. The commitment is also financial, not dramatically. $300 a month as a community contribution, framed as investment in the space, the resources, the ability of teacher Daniel to continue his work, framed as an expression of your commitment to your own growth, framed as the kind of decision that distinguishes the people who are serious about transformation from the people who want transformation to be free and convenient. You make $47,000 a year. $300 a month is significant. You agree to it? You also agree to a technology protocol. Inner Circle members are encouraged, not required, never required. Everything is always framed as your free choice to reduce their consumption of what the group calls signal disruptive media. News, social media, entertainment produced by conventional culture. These things, teacher Daniel explains at your first Inner Circle session, are the primary delivery mechanism of noise. Reducing them clears space for the signal. You delete Twitter. You reduce your news consumption. You stop watching television, except occasionally. You feel better. This is the infuriating honesty of it. You feel better. The reduction of media consumption, the increase in community and purposeful activity, the mindfulness practices from the teaching. These things produce measurable improvements in your daily experience. The improvements are real. The mechanism producing them includes things that are harmful and that you cannot see yet because they're producing things that feel good. Year 1. You haven't seen your mother since Christmas. It's September. This didn't happen through any single decision. It happened through accumulation. The Tuesday sessions, the Thursday dinners, the Inner Circle weekend retreats, 2 of them since January, each consuming a full weekend. The volunteer projects, the study groups, the informal community time that fills the gaps. Your schedule is full of radiant path. When your mother calls you on a Sunday, she calls every Sunday, as since you moved out at 22, you're often at something. You call her back when you can. The calls have gotten shorter, not from hostility, from the specific gap that grows between people who are living in different worlds and finding less and less to bridge with. Your mother says in August that she's concerned. She says it carefully. She's not a confrontational person. She describes what she's observing, the schedule, the money, the way you talk about the group with a totality that she finds unfamiliar. She asks if you're okay. You explain the signal noise framework. You hear yourself explaining it. And you hear faintly something that you don't let yourself follow. A quality in your own voice that belongs to people who are reciting rather than reflecting. But the faint sound gets processed through the framework and comes out the other side as evidence that your mother is operating from her conditioned mind rather than genuine concern. You tell her you've never been better. She says she loves you. You say you love her too. The call ends earlier than usual. Your old friends, the ones from before the radiant path, have mostly drifted, not through dramatic rupture, through the gradual calcification of relationships that aren't fed. When you do see them, occasionally the distance is palpable. You're living inside a framework that structures how you see everything, and the framework isn't one they share. And the gap between your way of understanding the world and theirs has grown to the point where conversation requires a translation effort that exhausts you both. Teacher Daniel addresses this in a teaching session. He talks about how growth creates distance, how the people who love you but are still operating in the system will feel the change in you and interpret it as loss, how their resistance to your growth is not malice but fear that your transformation reflects on their own unlived potential. This is a compassionate explanation for why your family is pulling away. It's also an explanation that positions their concern as a problem with them rather than information about you. You absorb it. Year 2. The third deepening retreat. You've been to 2. You've described them to your family briefly as intensive personal development workshops. To yourself and within the group, you described them differently as the most significant experiences of your life, as the place where the teaching becomes embodied rather than intellectual, where the signal becomes something you can actually feel. The retreat is 4 days at a property, 3 hours from the city. The structure of the 4 days is unlike anything in your previous experience. You arrive on Friday evening and your phone is collected, for your benefit, to reduce noise during the deepening. The schedule runs from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. or later. It includes teaching sessions, group processes, individual work with senior members, physical practices, periods of silence. And this is the thing that you've experienced twice before, and that you're here, again, partly to experience the sessions with teacher Daniel himself. He is different in this setting than he is at Thursday dinners or inner circle sessions. More intense, more specific. He meets with each person for one-on-one sessions that he calls core clarity work. In these sessions, he identifies with a precision that feels uncanny the specific wound that has been organizing your life. He identified yours in the first deepening, your father. The specific emotional abandonment of a father who was present physically and absent emotionally. Teacher Daniel named it with an accuracy that made you feel, sitting across from him in a small room with afternoon light coming through a curtain, that you'd been seen in a way you'd never been seen. You wept. He held space. You came out of that session with a feeling that has no adequate secular language. Something close to what religious people describe when they talk about grace. The specific relief of being known. You've been coming back for more of that feeling. What you don't see in year 2 is what the core clarity process costs. It costs you your privacy. The specific vulnerabilities teacher Daniel identifies in those sessions he knows because you told him. In group settings, later, you'll hear things that echo what you said in private. Not directly, he's too skilled for that. But the framework he builds around you, the specific language he uses to address you, is built from what he extracted in the room with the curtain. It costs you your evaluative independence. The experience of being so precisely understood creates a bond that functions like trust, but is actually something more specific: dependency. The person who named your wound becomes the authority on your wound. And the authority on your wound becomes gradually the authority on other things. By year 2, teacher Daniel's assessment of situations in your life, relationships, career decisions, family conflict, carries more weight than your own. You've given him the map of your interior. He uses it. Year 3. You haven't spoken to your mother in 4 months. The last call ended badly. She'd been talking to someone, a woman who runs a support group for families of cult members. And she used the word, and you responded the way you've been prepared to respond. You said, that word is what people use when they want to dismiss something they don't understand. Your mother cried. You held the framework around yourself and let the framework interpret her tears as evidence that your growth was threatening her. You hung up. You told this story in a group session. Teacher Daniel responded with the specific compassion of someone who understands what family separation costs and has a framework that makes the cost meaningful. He talked about how the path of authentic development requires releasing relationships that are anchored in the conditioned self. How holding on to those relationships because of guilt or obligation is letting the old self pull you back from the new. He didn't say, cut off your mother. He never says anything directly. This is his skill. He creates the framework and lets you draw the conclusions. You've drawn the conclusion. Your life is almost entirely radiant path now. Your friends are in the group. Your social calendar is group events. You've moved into a community house, 6 group members sharing a space that is less expensive than your apartment and more convenient for the schedule. Your $300 monthly contribution has increased incrementally to $800. This was presented as a function of your growing commitment and your growing capacity. Each increase was framed as your choice. You made each choice. The $800 is significant on $47,000 a year. You work less now, a job within the group's network of affiliated businesses. work that supports the community, pays less than your previous work, and keeps you within the group's world during work hours as well as evening and weekends. You've stopped seeing an old friend who expressed concern. You've stopped reading anything outside of Teacher Daniel's approved material. You don't see walls. You see home, hashtag LEVO8, the crack year 3.5. It starts with something small. A woman named Priya has been in the inner circle for 4 years. She's one of the people you're closest to. Not a friendship in the way you'd have defined friendship before. Not fully reciprocal or personal in the old sense, but as close as anything you have now. She knows your story. You know hers. Priya leaves on a Tuesday. Not dramatically. Her things are gone from the community house when you come back from a session. No note. No goodbye. She's simply not there. In the group session that evening, Teacher Daniel addresses it. Priya, he says, has chosen to return to the conditioned self. It happens. Not everyone has the capacity for the full journey. The compassionate response is to hold space for her choice and to reflect on what her departure reveals about our own commitment. You try to process this the way he's asking you to, but something underneath the processing isn't cooperating. You keep thinking about Priya's face in the last few weeks. A quality in it that you'd noticed and not examined. A flatness, a withdrawal. You'd assume she was going through something within the framework. Processing. Deepening. Now you wonder if she was trying to leave and you didn't see it, because you've been trained not to see it. You try to contact her through a mutual acquaintance who's outside the group. The message gets through. Priya responds, I can't talk about it yet, but I'm okay. I hope you're okay too. Then, I hope you find your way out. You close the message. Your way out. The phrase sits in you. You don't go to your phone and immediately call your mother. You don't walk out of the community house the next morning. The crack is not an exit. It's just a crack. But the crack lets in something that the wall had been keeping out. Light from outside. The possibility that what looks like home from inside might look like something else from out there. You sit with the crack. It takes 4 more months. This is the thing about leaving that nobody who hasn't done it fully understands. You know, with increasing clarity as the months after Priya's departure accumulate, that something is wrong. The framework has started to feel different. Not collapsed, but visible. You can see it as a thing now, a structure, where before you couldn't see it because you were inside it. Seeing it doesn't immediately give you somewhere else to stand, because everything is the group. Your housing, your work, your social life, the people you trust. The framework through which you interpret your own emotions and experiences. Leaving the group means leaving all of it simultaneously. And leaving means going somewhere. Where do you go? Your mother. That's the answer that comes when you let yourself think about it. Your mother who called every Sunday for 3 years until she didn't. Whose calls you let go to voicemail and then stopped expecting? You don't know if she'll answer. You find out on a Wednesday afternoon when you're supposed to be at a study session. And instead, you're sitting in your car in a parking lot because you couldn't make yourself walk in. She answers on the second ring. There's a pause when she hears your voice. A pause that contains, You can hear it even through the phone, even through 3 years of silence. Something that is trying very hard not to become crying before it understands what this call is. Mom, you say. I think I need help. Dot pause ends. Tell me where you are, she says. Leaving is not recovery. This is the thing that the narrative about cult exits often gets wrong. The dramatic departure that resolves into ordinary life. Leaving is the beginning of a different kind of difficult. You leave the community house with what fits in your car. You stay with your mother for 3 months. This is not easy. 3 years of absence and the specific person you were when you left and the specific person you are when you return. These things require navigation that is sometimes tender and sometimes painful and always necessary. You see a therapist, a real one, not the kind that Teacher Daniel explained was part of the system. A person who sits with you in a room and helps you do the slow, painstaking work of understanding what happened. What happened, you learn, has a name. Several names. Undue influence. Coercive control. High control group. The academic and clinical language for what the radiant path was and what it did. Learning the language helps. Not because language makes it not have happened, but because language gives you the ability to understand it as a thing that exists, that other people have experienced, that has documented mechanisms and documented effects. You learn about love bombing, the warmth at the Thursday dinner that was real and structured simultaneously. You learn about thought-stopping techniques, the signal noise framework that made your own doubt an enemy of your growth. You learn about loaded language and information control and the gradual replacement of your external relationships with internal ones. You learn about Priya eventually. She's okay. She left because she saw, before you did, what you eventually saw. You have coffee with her 6 months after your exit. The conversation is two people carefully building a new language for a shared experience. It's difficult. It's also one of the better conversations you've had since before the group. You contact your old friends. Some of those relationships are recoverable. Some have moved too far in the years you were gone. The ones you recover are different from what they were. Not worse, different. Rebuilt on the knowledge of what you were capable of losing and what it cost to get back. Your mother. This one you tend with the specific attention of someone who understands. Now, what they almost let go permanently. You call every Sunday. When she worries, you let her worry without processing it as noise. When she asks hard questions, you answer them. When she says she loves you, you say it back without a framework between you and the words. You're 30 years old. You were inside for almost 4 years. The 4 years will always have happened. The therapist helps you understand this not as a catastrophe, but as part of your history. Something you survived, something that changed you, something that you understand in ways that most people who haven't been through it don't. You're not grateful for it, but you're not destroyed by it either. You're still here. You're learning what here means. So what does every level of a cult actually look like? It looks like a Thursday dinner with warm people and good food. It looks like the first time in months that you feel genuinely interesting to someone. It looks like community and purpose and a framework that makes sense of things that didn't make sense before. It looks like belonging. That's the mechanism. Not brainwashing in the dramatic science fiction sense. Not force. Not a locked room and a single charismatic figure demanding immediate surrender. It looks like warmth, given in a specific quantity at specific moments in response to specific behaviors. Calibrated, whether consciously or not, to move you in a direction. To make the group the source of everything you need until the idea of life outside the group becomes genuinely unthinkable. The wall isn't built in a day. It's built one dinner at a time, one warm conversation, one study session, one retreat, one framework that classifies outside voices as noise, one relationship that becomes the group's instead of yours, one Sunday call that goes to voicemail. By the time the wall is complete, you've forgotten you built it. You think it's just where you live? The people who leave are the ones who find a crack, who let in enough light from outside to see the wall as a wall, who have somewhere to go when they find it. The somewhere to go is the part that requires other people. Someone who answers on the second ring. Someone who says, "Tell me where you are." That's what saves people. Not the dramatic exit. The person on the other end of the phone. Keep being that person for the people you love, even when they stop answering. Answer anyway. At which level would you have seen it? Or is the honest answer that seeing it from inside is exactly what the levels are designed to prevent? Seer.